Help me to reach 2,000 subscribers. The laughter around the dining table was warm and golden, the kind that only comes when everyone's drunk just enough to forget their secrets. But I couldn't forget mine. Or hers. Emma, tell us again about your amazing boss, one of her friends teased, raising her glass. You've mentioned him about 100 times tonight. Emma laughed, brushing her hair behind her ear, the diamond bracelet I gave her glinting under the chandelier. Oh, come on, Sarah. He's just brilliant. The kind of leader who makes you want to give your best, you know? The word give stuck in my head like a nail. I sipped my drink, letting the whiskey burn through the tension rising in my throat. I'd been watching her all evening, how her eyes lit up at every mention of him, how her voice softened when she spoke his name, Ethan. Ethan. Her boss. I'd met him once, briefly, at her company's holiday event. Confident. Charming, maybe too charming. The kind of man who never breaks eye contact with a woman, even when her husband's standing right next to her. But that night, Emma wasn't just talking about him. She was glowing with him. When the party quieted, I caught her watching her phone. A quick text flashed across the screen before she turned it face down. I saw enough. The name. The same one that had haunted my thoughts for weeks. Ethan. I smiled politely and took another sip, my pulse steady but my insides twisting like wire. Why don't you invite this amazing boss of yours next time? I asked casually. The room fell slightly quieter. I'd love to meet the man who makes my wife so inspired. Emma froze for a fraction of a second, then forced a laugh. He's too busy, trust me. He practically lives at the office. I smiled again. I bet he does. The rest of the night blurred in slow motion, Emma laughing too loudly, me pretending not to notice her phone lighting up every few minutes. When the last guest left, I started cleaning up in silence. The music still played softly, a love song that suddenly felt like a cruel joke. She walked up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist. You were quiet tonight. You okay? Fine, I said, stacking plates, my tone light. You seemed happy. Talking about him. Her hand stilled. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just an observation. She moved around to face me, eyes narrowing. You think I'm having an affair, don't you? The words hung between us like poison. I looked at her carefully, studying the flicker of fear that flashed behind her anger. Should I? She laughed, but it was brittle. You're being ridiculous, Mark. Maybe. I smiled again, the same smile I'd worn all evening. You're right. I'm probably overthinking it. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake listening to the faint sound of her breathing beside me, pretending everything was normal. But my mind wouldn't stop replaying her voice, the way she said his name, the warmth in her eyes that hadn't been there for me in months. By morning, I decided I needed the truth, not the kind that came from confrontation, but the kind that came from observation. Over the next week, I followed the small cracks. The perfume she never used before. The late-night emails. The way she started locking her phone. I wasn't the jealous type, but I wasn't blind either. On Friday, she said she had a team dinner. I kissed her goodbye, smiled, and told her to have fun. As soon as she left, I grabbed my jacket and keys. Her office was downtown, near the river. I parked across the street and waited. An hour passed. Then 2. Finally, I saw her walk out of the building, her laughter echoing faintly even through the glass. She wasn't alone. Ethan walked beside her, his hand brushing hers like a secret no one was supposed to see. She glanced around, but never up. They headed into the hotel across the street. The hotel that wasn't far from our home. I didn't confront her that night. Not yet. Some betrayals deserve patience. Instead, I went home, sat in the quiet, and thought. I wasn't sure if I wanted revenge, understanding, or both. But I knew I wanted to hear her say it. The next day, I acted like nothing happened. She smiled at me over breakfast, guilt flickering faintly in her eyes, and I almost pitied her. Almost. Then came Saturday night, the party at our place for her colleagues. She insisted Ethan couldn't come. I insisted he should. He's your boss, Emma. It'd be rude not to invite him. She hesitated but eventually agreed. When he arrived, the room shifted. He was magnetic, effortlessly charming, and I could see why she'd fallen for him. But what neither of them expected was that I had my own plans. Halfway through the evening, when the laughter was loudest and everyone's guard was down, I stood up, raised my glass, and smiled. "I'd like to make a toast," I said. The chatter quieted. "To my wife, Emma. She's been talking non-stop about her incredible boss. I think we all owe him some thanks for inspiring her so much." She froze. Ethan looked uneasy. The tension in the room grew thick enough to choke on. "So," I continued, my voice calm, "I'd like to share something special. Something that'll show just how close their working relationship really is." I held up my phone. A hush fell. I pressed play. The speakers filled with soft laughter, her laughter, and Ethan's voice, unmistakable. The recording I'd made outside the hotel. Their conversation was short, intimate, damning. Emma's face drained of color. Ethan took a step forward, eyes wide. The guests stared, the room silent except for the faint echo of their voices. When it ended, I lowered my phone and looked at her. "I guess your boss taught you more than just work ethic," I said quietly. No one spoke. Emma's lips trembled. "Mark, please. I can explain." I nodded slowly. "I'm sure you can. But not tonight." She reached out, tears spilling down her face, but I stepped back. For the first time in months, I felt strangely calm. The rage, the heartbreak, the confusion, they all quieted, replaced by something colder. I turned to the guests, forcing a polite smile. "Thank you all for coming. I think that's enough honesty for one evening." And then I walked out. The night air hit my face like a slap, but it was freeing. Behind me, I could still hear her sobbing, calling my name. But I didn't turn back. Some truths don't need explanations. Sometimes, silence says everything.